Hello and welcome to MSHGQM. Today we're going to be tackling the measure totals problem. All right, so I'm going to explain, a little bit about history of measure totals within Power BI, and then how to fix the problem, and I'm going to rant throughout this video about this problem because I've been compelled to make this video because I feel somewhat like I'm part of the problem. That this has never been fixed within Power BI, and this problem with measure totals goes back to the dawn of Power BI. It's never worked correctly, in my opinion, and because the way that it works is totally bizarre and stupid. And I feel like everyone in the community has always, oh yeah, we know about the measure total problem. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. It's here's how you fix it, and here's the reason, here's the cause. But where's the outrage over why it works the way it does? And because the way it works is not in any way logical or conceivable or acceptable, quite honestly. And now, I mean, you're probably thinking, well, why haven't you included the measure totals? The solution measure totals, the final word. It's literally the most, the most kudoed quick measure gallery item, right? Measure totals, the final word. You know, it's literally the most. I don't know if it's the most popular, but whatever. It's the people like it, okay? Because it solves this stupid problem that Power BI has, which I really see as it's really it's an adoption issue in my opinion. Because if I'm a brand new user to Power BI and I load up some data and create a simple measure. And then, first one of the first things I'm probably going to do, because it's something I'm comfortable with, because it's like Excel, is I'm going to probably create a table visualization or matrix visualization. And I drop my measure into the table or the matrix or the table, and the total's wrong. I'm probably going to be like, this tool is garbage, and I'm never going to use it again. I'm going to close it and I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to delete it from my desk, uninstall it, and that's going to be the end of it because this is so stupid that this total, I mean, just fundamentally, how can you not get this right? So before we get into all that, I'm already getting worked up over this. You can tell this is an issue that really irritates me, because it's like you've had 5 or 6 years to fix this. I know if I had access to the code, I could fix this in a weekend. I swear. So anyway, and it's really, I've thought about it from a number of different levels. Is it a DAX issue? No, it's a visualization issue. Just go fix it in the visualization and make it work properly. And if you're worried about, backwards compatibility and everything, great. Add a property in the general setting. Add a property to your visuals, to just, we'll format it and we'll select this matrix, and we'll go into general properties. Just have one of these sliders that says work properly, yes, on, or I want it to work stupidly, off, anyway. All right, let's get into this measure total problem. Obviously, as you can tell, the fundamental problem is that the measure totals aren't correct in the total line for a matrix, or a visual. So here I got 290, 290, and then 590. That's not right. That adds up to 580. And here I've got 190, 190, 190. That should add up to 570. And no, it's 590, because these visuals don't work properly. So the basis behind all of this is just a simple table that I created. Here I have 3 lines for category 1, and, red, green, blue for subcategories. Category 2, red, blue, green again, and all the values are 100. Just simple, right? And then what I did was I created a very simple measure. And all the measure does is it does a sum x, or you could do a sum of the value, and then it subtracts 10. That's all the measure does. And so if you can cause a measure total problem with a DAX formula this simple, right, it's going to be rampant throughout most of your measures, okay? And a couple other things I did as far as background to prepare for this video and show some things. What I did was I created a dump filters measure. And a dump filters measure looks like this, okay? And these things are really easy to generate using DAX Studio. Basically what it does, it goes through every column and every table in your data model and checks if there's a filter on it, and if there is, then it returns it and shows it. So as you can see, if I hover over here, I can see that I have a filter on table category column that equals column 1, category 1, and category 2. So how I got there was I went into DAX Studio, I went into DAX Studio, and all you have to do is right click on any one of these tables over here and say define filter dump measure all tables. That's going to generate this kind of code right here. And all you have to do is start highlighting it, Control Shift End, and then do a copy, right? Control C, copy pasta, and that's how I created this this dump filters measure. I just went in here, created a new measure, and just pasted in all that code, right? So did that, and then I created a tooltip page. So because table and matrix visuals are lacking in certain tooltip regards, what I did was I went in and created a tooltip page. I just created a card visualization, right? And I threw my dump filters measure into there. And so there's that. So now I have and then what I had to do then as well is go back to these matrix and table visualizations, go into the properties, into general, and then had to toggle tooltips on. And if you want to be specific about it, right, you want a report page tooltip, and then you want a page to be your tool, point it to your tooltip measure tooltip page. All right, so I think that's all the prep work essentially for this. And so what you end up with is, right, so now I can hover over these and see what my filters are. And you can see in the total line that there is no filter for category, right? So what's happening here? So what's going on here is that, and some people say, well, it's because the total line executes in the context of all. It's not quite exactly right, because you can filter it, right? Up here, I filtered for category 1. Now the total is obviously correct for this one because there's only one item in here. But you can see that there is it does respect that category equals category 1 coming in. So it's not quite in the context of all. It's just that this total row does not have this additional filter context from these other different these rows above it, right? That's really what's going on. So when this measure executes in this row, it's summing all of the and all the rows for category one, and then it's subtracting 10. And for this row, it's summing everything for category 2, and then subtracting 10. Well, the problem then is that in the total row, it's summing everything, all the rows in the that are they're in context within that table, and then it's subtracting 10. And so therefore, that's why you get a wrong total. I have 290 here, 290 here, but this one's only subtracts 10, where it should subtract 20. And so now I get 590 instead of the correct answer, 580. Same thing happening down here. I get 590 instead of the correct answer, 570. All right, so how do you fix it, right? So the way to fix it, and this is included in measure totals, the final word, but it's fairly simple fix. So all you have to do is basically put in if ISINSCOPE the table in the category, right? So this tells me if I'm in a row with a category or not. And if I am, I just return my standard measure that I created, that one that subtracts 10. If I am not in a category row, which means I'm in some sort of total row, then it's going to do a SumX where it summarizes that table. So I'm recreating this visual essentially in within this summarize right here. So what I'm doing, all I'm doing here is I'm saying summarize that table by category, and then I'm adding a column for which I call underscore value, and I'm executing that same measure totals measure. And then at the end of that, I'm doing a SumX across that table and just summing up my value, which then gives me the correct answer because I'm actually doing what a matrix or table visualization should be doing, which is adding up the individual rows in the visual. Like how simple is that? Amazing, right? That, now the interesting thing about this though, and one of the reasons why it's never been included in MSHGQM is because there's no one size fits all way to solve this problem. As you can see down here, I'm using that same measure totals category, and it's completely wrong. It's wrong at the row level, and it's wrong at the total level. So why is that, right? So because I'm keying on that category, then in this instance, I'm never in categories, never in scope, right? It's only the subcategories in scope. So I have to create a separate measure if, for a subcategory table visual. And so it's the same basic process, right? If ISINSCOPE table subcategory, then just return what that measure does. Otherwise, sum X across that. Now I'm summarizing by subcategory, and then sum X the value, right? And that gives me the correct answer: 190, 190, 190, 570. So, and this is why this is, again, why this is just such a it's mind-boggling problem or issue with Power BI, is that it really damages self-service visualization. In self-service visualization, you have no idea how the users are going to be combining different columns and things together and using these measures. So if you have measures that exhibit a measure totals problem, and any reasonably complex measure is going to, then how can your end user is going to get wrong answers by using these measures when they're creating their own visualizations, because you can't control what's going on. And you definitely can't create a different measure total, measure for every possible scenario that your users might come up with. So you know, it's, I think it's a big user adoption issue, measure totals, one, for the reasons I've described, right? Because it's stuff, users, people just don't expect things to work this way. I'm sure it works, it makes logical sense from a DAX perspective, but why on earth would you code a table or matrix visual that way? It's zero sense. Um, and then it's really damaging for self-service visualization as a result as well. And it's not like the problem isn't solvable. Again, I think I could solve this in a weekend given access to the code, but there are people that have solved this problem already, actually. And maybe I'll just go out and code a table or matrix visual that work properly. I don't know. We'll see. But there is one out there called summary table, for example, and it doesn't exhibit these kinds of problems. In fact, as you can see, I've only got category and measure totals here, and I've got subcategory and measure totals here, and it works properly, right? My totals are correct. My line items are correct. It's not it's not an impossible problem to solve, and I think it's hugely damaging. Now, in this particular case, what you have to do in order to solve this problem, right here, I've got category 1, category 2 total, right? So when you go into you flip on code view, and this is the like the CSS code behind this visualization. But all I had to do was I just added this little snippet right here, including the comma right at the end, where I title it the total, and I just tell it, hey, it's category 2 plus category 1, and I leave everything else the same. And I could modify the visual styles and all that sort of stuff, but that's it. There's no earthly reason why the default visuals couldn't implement this functionality. I gotta believe. And again, if you're worried about backwards compatibility, just go and add a toggle switch to don't don't be broken. Don't be broken. On or off. That's it. So anyway, I hope I haven't annoyed too many people with my ranting on this issue, but I really feel strongly on this topic. It's especially in the realm of self-service visualization, measures are like this are just you can't really use them, right? I mean, because you have no idea what the user is going to do in it. And so in self-service visualization scenarios, I always, and this is going to be, people are going to be all up in arms about me saying this, but I'd rather use calculated columns. If I can solve a problem using a calculated column versus a measure, and get the right answer, well, you know what? Doesn't matter how the user uses that calculated column in visualizations, they're never going to get the wrong total. So it makes measures, in self-service visualization scenarios, it makes measures almost next to useless, in my opinion, and that's really sad. And I can't believe it's been like 6 years or so that this problem has existed, and I think it's time for it to come to an end. I think it's really hurting Power BI adoption. It's really hurting the usability of Power BI within organizations, especially from a self-service visualization perspective. It just needs to stop. There's no reason for it. All right, I'm done ranting now. I'm all out. Said what I had to be said. So hopefully I didn't offend too many people, but oh well. I'll see you guys next time.